words, Midrash lays bare what lies behind 14 prakim of Tanakh. On the psukim of Shimon and Levi, Achim Klei Chamas Mecherotehem. On the pasuk where Yaakov goes and curses Shimon and Levi in the brachot. Says the Midrash, Shimon and Levi Achim L'Dina V'lo Yosef. You were brothers for Dina and not for Yosef. What is the Midrash trying to get at? The Midrash is troubled because if we look back at the Maaseh Shechem, we see that basically Yaakov has pragmatic concerns which he voices to Shimon and Levi. Achartem oti, you sullied me. Lahavisheni b'nei haaretz, v'ani mitei mispar, and we are few in number. V'yavo v'harguni, and they'll come and kill me. That's what Yaakov is concerned with. He doesn't voice any moral concern as to what they did, but merely the pragmatic voice that says, we are few in number, and we will be eliminated by the people who live in this land. And Shimon and Levi turn to Yaakov with a short, pithy response. Should we allow our sister to be turned into a harlot? We have our principle. You are coming with your pragmatic concerns. In effect, God will protect us. And 5 psukim later, that's exactly what happens. Vayisau, they traveled. Vayichitat Elokim al arei haaretz, and the fear of God was on the towns surrounding Shechem, and they did not attack Bnei Yaakov. Perhaps, indeed, if I look at what occurs, and only in the vacuum of Parashat Vayishlach, I would come to the conclusion, as the Rambam himself did, that what Shimon and Levi did was perfectly justified and was protected by halacha, the halacha of the Yeshivat mitzvat b'nei Noach. And Yaakov had his concerns, but his concerns were unfounded. And we hear nothing else about that incident until the brachot, 40 years and 14 prakim later. Why does Yaakov choose to speak here? And the Midrash says, Achim L'Dina V'lo Yosef. Because Yaakov, in those intervening 40 years, has understood, has heard what Shimon and Levi had intended to do, to kill Yosef in the boar. And Shimon and Levi were saved, as it were, by Yehuda, but that was what their intent was. And Yaakov, now in Mitzrayim, has found out the full story. And when he hears the story, he realizes that what Shimon and Levi had done with Shechem was not because of a righteous rage, a kanaut, if you will, which would be justified al pi halacha, but rather simply because they were hotheads, they were vigilantes, and they were willing to use that same violence against their own brother, if necessary, in order to forward their own personal gains, and not because of any principle whatsoever. Shimon v'Levi achim l'Dina v'lo Yosef. And this tells us volumes about what our own motivations need to be. We always have to be asking ourselves, are we ultimately acting because we believe in the principles that guide us, or are we acting because of something deeper and more primal and more violent and not acceptable at all? Moshe Feinstein, in a tshuva written thousands of years after the incident, speaking not of Shimon and Levi, but rather of another Kanai, of Pinchas, says, Im hu l'kavanah acheret, had it been done for a different intent, harei eino Kanai, this is not considered to be a kanaut, which is something which is sanctioned by the Torah, but rather, mela hu rotzeach mamash, rather, he would have been considered to be a simple murderer. The same action, the same timing, motivation is what makes a difference. We have to ask ourselves as well, what are our motivations? Whether it's in something as severe as what had happened to Shimon and Levi, but also in our daily lives. What are we doing? Are we doing things really l'shem shamayim? Or rather, are we too guilty of at times being Achim L'Dina V'lo Yosef?